I want to say happy birthday to Larry Legend. The former Celtic great turned 60 today. Bird was a 3-time league MVP, 2-time finals MVP, and 12-time All-Star. It got us thinking in our morning meeting, will we ever see another white superstar on Bird's level, Max?
Yeah, of course we will. I mean, listen, you take just North American Caucasian players like Steve Nash and John Stockton, not quite on Bird's level because they're shorter, but they were some of the best point guards of their generation. Of course, we will see other, American, Caucasian, I suppose, European American superstars. Eventually, we'll see more than one, Stephen A. Smith.
I'm not so sure. I mean, I definitely think that we'll see European stars of lighter pigmentation. But when you talk about the United States of America and the options that you have available to you, I mean, the fact of the matter is there's brothers on every street corner. I mean, every park, balling out. And a lot of times when you see white American players, yeah, they can play. There's no doubt about it. But in terms of that want to, meaning wanting to go for it, there are so many options available to a white male individual in the United States of America. There are times that I question. We got better options. We got baseball. We got football. We got all of this.
Yeah, but you know what,
stuff.
Stephen A. Smith?
I'm not one.
The NBA,
Sure.
The NBA is such an appealing place to work. It's not full contact like football, guaranteed contracts, lots of money, fun to play. That if you can, it's almost not an exaggeration to say the following. Everyone in the world, basically, who can play in the NBA does play in the NBA, and it selects.
Let me make you laugh. Let me make you laugh. Let me make you laugh with what I'm really trying to say. It's not intentional, and it's not insidious in any way. It's all in fun and love, but it's almost like reverse discrimination in the United States of America. It's like we got the black dudes, we got the Europeans, okay? Like the white dudes from America, they got a harder way to go to
Are
get
you saying
into
that the NBA is missing?
And to really make some noise. It's hilarious.
Are you saying the NBA is missing a good old-fashioned North American white dude in the league? Is that what you're saying?
You know what? Yes, I am. I really believe that let me tell you something. If you can find Larry Bird,
Hayward
a white
count, right?
American superstar, it would be special. I think the league would love it. I think everybody would love it. I just think it's kind of harder to find. There's so many options.
All right. Is Carmelo a ball hog? Phil Jackson was asked about Melo in an interview with CBS Sports and says that he can play the role that Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant played in the team's triangle offense, but he believes that Anthony sometimes breaks a team rule by holding onto the ball for too long. Carmelo, a lot of times, wants to hold the ball longer than we have a rule. If you hold it past 2 seconds, you benefit the defense. He has a little bit of a tendency to hold it for 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then everybody comes to a stop. That is one of the things we work with, but he's adjusted to the triangle. He knows what he can do, and he's willing to see its success. Stephen A., you have any problems with Jackson's comments?
Well, of course I do. I have profound respect for Phil Jackson. 11 championships are 11 championships. But I don't like him very much. And I think that I need to say that. And here's why. Phil Jackson has been called many things. He's been called the Zen Master. He's been called the brilliant basketball coach, brilliant basketball mind, an ultimate champion, the best coach in basketball. But there is one thing that Phil Jackson has never been called, and it is absolutely what he is. He's a bully. No one's ever called him that. I'm going to today. Let's take into account the fact that we need to ask ourselves the question, who the hell does Phil Jackson think he is? Phil Jackson does have 11 rings. 6 of them came with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. 5 of them came with Shaq and Kobe, got 3, and then Kobe with Gasol. No one has rode the coattails of a superstar the way Phil Jackson has. Don't tell me that the Chicago Bulls don't ultimately win a championship had Doug Collins remained their basketball coach. Now, I'm not going to take anything away from the greatness of Phil Jackson because there's something to be said about, not messing up what you have, Max. The problem is, when have you heard Phil step back and exude and display humility in talking about how lucky he was to have Michael Jordan? How lucky he was to have Scottie Pippen? How lucky he was to have Dennis Rodman? How about a Tony Kukoc? How about a John Paxson? A B.J. Armstrong? A Steve Kerr? How about that? When have you ever heard him talk about that? How about when he got Kobe? Now, in fairness to Phil, they didn't win when they had Shaq and Kobe until Phil got there. But at the same time, you won when you had them. And then Mitch Kupchak pulled off the heist of the century when he got to get rid of Kwame Brown.
Phil Jackson.
To get Pau Gasol. I mean, come on.
Phil Jackson may be a bully.
Nobody ever says this
Phil
about
Jackson
him.
may be a bully. I don't see how it comes out in this respect. I mean, he knows the triangle better than anyone. And when he says, I'll take his word for it, that Carmelo's holding the ball too long to be less than optimally effective in the triangle. Now, Carmelo should be able to run the triangle. He can score from the perimeter. He can post up. He can get his teammates open looks and all those kind of things that Phil Jackson wants him to do. But if Phil says he's holding the ball too long, fine. Because Carmelo's not on his best day as good as Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan. In fact, he's not as good as Scottie Pippen or Shaquille O'Neal. He's not as good as any of those top flight guys that Phil Jackson's had in the past. There's an argument between Pau Gasol at his best and Carmelo Anthony. I got news. The point is, of everyone I just mentioned,
That's ridiculous.
the only one to have a championship without Phil Jackson, the only one is Shaq. And he got one. He got it with Dwayne Wade, who had the greatest finals of anyone since Michael Jordan had among his great finals. So with another top 3 or 4 player in the league who went bananas in the finals, Shaq got one. Kobe never sniffed another championship without Phil. Neither did MJ before or after. Neither did Pippen in spite of playing when he still had something left on good teams.
There you go.
Neither did Gasol. I mean, so Phil Jackson has something to do with that.
Yeah, who said he didn't? I mean, what am I talking gibberish here? Who said that Phil Jackson deserves no credit?
Players who won championships.
No. Excuse me. What coach had the players he had? And by the way, let's talk about Greg Popovich, for example. Greg Popovich don't even want to do interviews. He's mad he's got to talk at halftime. He's mad he's got to talk during the games, okay? He barely wants to talk to the media on a day-to-day basis. When the man gets Coach of the Year, the players have to come out and get him to hoist the trophy. And when he has the trophy, they run away because he tries to give it to somebody else because he wants no credit. But Phil's sitting down with everybody from Charlie Rose to ESPN and everybody else and he never ever talks about all the other guys and what they did for him.
He does
Never
sometimes.
does that.
Sure he does. But if you want to get down on Phil Jackson for something, you should be down on the fact that he's so insistent upon a culture of the triangle as the basis for his offense. I mean, Greg Popovich uses a little triangle sometimes.
Yeah,
it doesn't work in today's game.
That's the thing to be down on Phil Jackson about.
No, what I'm down on him about is that he's so quick to get on other folks. This is his 3rd year here. Is Melo the reason he walked into this season with a 49-115 record in his 2-year tenure, or that he couldn't build a bench? Is Melo the reason for that? Phil Jackson, is Melo the reason that the man has been on 2 road trips and they were LA, the Clippers and the Lakers games last year? Is that Melo's fault?
But he holds the ball a little too long
that this guy can't seem to assemble? I understand that. But listen, we all know that. Allen Iverson held the damn ball too. It didn't stop Larry Brown from getting him to the finals because you built a team around him. What has Phil Jackson done? All I'm saying to you is this. I respect the man as a great coach. He's an 11-time champion. But the arrogance and the willingness to bully people when you always talking about what they do instead of what you don't do. Phil Jackson is a great coach. He is a novice as an executive. He is a novice as a leader for the Knicks franchise.
13-time champion, too, as a player. But yeah.
That is a fact.
We got to move on.
Okay.
The ESPN Week 14 NFL Power Rankings are hot off the press, and Stephen A's favorite team remains on top. But behind the Cowboys, the Gronkless Patriots moved up 1 spot to number 2 after a win over the Rams, and the Raiders dropped 1 spot to number 3 after their comeback win against the Bills. Both New England and Oakland are 10-2 this season. Max,
yes.
Do the Raiders deserve to be above the Patriots?
No, they don't. Look, some of this is, anticipating the trajectory of the teams and Gronk goes down and all this. I get the arguments, but the Patriots are a 2-loss team that has been for most of this season until recently, really, perceived as the juggernaut of the NFL. It was going to be the Patriots in the AFC, and could the Cowboys keep this up, or would it be the Seahawks? And the Broncos kind of lost their way. They got banged up in the secondary. But the Patriots were the team, Molly, you, and others were telling me all year, look at Tom Brady. He's having the greatest season ever.
Yeah, that was me.
Now, yeah, they're down Gronk, and they're not looking as good as they did earlier in the season. They're still a 2-loss team based on the resume and everything we know about the teams at this very moment, not just anticipating what may happen in the next few weeks, but right now, the Patriots should be ranked ahead of the Raiders.
Obviously, you're wrong. I disagree with you, but what else is new? It's one of those situations where you look at the New England Patriots right now, the absence of Gronk obviously is going to have, obviously could have a detrimental effect on them. Will they get it together? Sure. They find ways to win, but it's one thing to find ways to win. It's another thing to be and appear to be such a juggernaut that everybody's hearing your footsteps and they fear that you're coming. The Patriots are at the top of the heap in everybody's eyes with folks coming along the way. But Oakland is not tippy-toeing. They're stomping. With Derek Carr leading the way with this passing attack that's a top 3 in the game, with an offense that's a top 4 in the game, and more importantly, with their comeback abilities and their willingness and ability to win on the road, I think right now, in terms of a momentum, you've got to look at the New England Patriots and say to yourself, nope, they got to play second fiddle to the Oakland Raiders right now, because New England, they've got a bend but don't break defense. They'll find a way to get things done, but at the same time, it's one of those situations where their defense is not elite. It's not stout. And with going against Oakland's offense, which is on, and with their defense being on the come up, I think the fact that you've seen Khalil Mack really take the bull by the horn and really starting to do his thing, combined with Bruce Irvin and the rest of the crew, and what the offense has been able to do in terms of coming back from early deficits, I just think Oakland has the edge right now. I consider the Oakland Raiders to be the #1 team in the AFC at this moment.
This used to be in boxing years and years ago, in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. There was a big argument about who was the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, Stephen A. I'm sure you remember. Pernell Whitaker or Julio Cesar Chavez, right? And Chavez would overcome all these early obstacles and deficits in the fight and come back and knock people out. And they didn't know if Pernell could do that. You know why? Because he was just winning every fight by a lot. And no one could really put an obstacle in front of him. And given the choice between those two, I'll take just the better option. The Patriots don't have to mount fourth-quarter comebacks because they are better in most facets of the game against most teams, most seasons, at most times of the year. And it's true now.
No. Question. Who won the Pernell Whitaker, Julio Cesar Chavez fight?
Pernell Whitaker, but they called it a draw?
No. I asked you who won.
I told you.
Didn't ask you what your feelings were.
My feelings were the only thing
did
that
not
counts,
win.
Stephen A.
It was a draw.
No.
It was a draw. So, wait a minute. Why was it a draw? Why was it a draw? It was a draw
Corruption?
because Julio Cesar Chavez, you understand, had that ability to find a way to finish you off. And what I'm saying to you is
Pernell
that what I'm
dominated the end
saying
of the
to you,
fight.
well, listen. Well, look, he dominated the end of that fight. I thought he should have won too, but I use the operative word "should." But I'm using your analogy. I know you're trying to block me from speaking because you don't want me to educate you. But the point that I'm trying to make is that here's the deal: it was a draw because of the very analogy that you use. That puncher's chance, that ability to find a way to come back, no matter what adverse circumstances are presented to him, made you sit there and say, "We ain't giving him the loss," which is why I'm not giving Oakland a #2 slot. I think they're the #1 team in the AFC because somehow, some way, they keep finding ways, and I can't ignore that.
Well, the Oakland Raiders are better than I thought they'd be. Their defense is getting better. They have a quarterback. I made a boxing analogy because I made it the other day. Derek Carr is like a fighter built for, or the Raiders with Derek Carr as the quarterback, and those receivers are like a fighter in the old days built for 15 rounds, going to knock you out in the championship rounds, 13, 14, 15. But, they're coming from behind. They're in these tough games coming from behind. And the Patriots are not because they're just winning. Because they're better.
The problem with your argument is that most folks don't remember when boxing went 15 rounds.
Well, that's their problem, Stephen A. Smith. Wasn't it a great time?
We know. Far be it for us to get where you're coming from. 15 rounds.
Right.
How old were us? How old were you and I when boxing was 15 rounds? How old were we,
I don't know. I was probably about 15 or something like that when it went to 12.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's the Raiders. The Raiders are the
the
great puncher who comes back in fights. And the Patriots are just, Floyd Mayweather or someone like that. They just dominate you the entire. They're just better.
Except they have
the entire
offense
time.
too, unlike Floyd Mayweather. All right.